Hello, beautiful people. How are we doing today? Let me just get my glasses on. Amazing. So welcome to the space. Welcome to the Dragon's Den, whether you're inside or looking to get inside. This is going to be your introductory class on the Sophia arc. Oh my goodness. So, gotta be careful not to burn myself. We'll get started. If you're unfamiliar with the Sophia arc, I do have a whole playlist on my TikTok. It might be better to start there than just dive right into this. But if you are just diving right into this, there's no problem with that. And we will give you all the information that you need. This is going to be a high-level overview of the Sophia arc. What we do inside of the Dragon's Den really takes you in depth to each of the stages. But before we even begin all of that, I want you to just take a breath here with me. Notice where you are right now. Are you physically rooted where you are physically, or are you feeling kind of up in the clouds, up in the air? Bring awareness to your body, whether it's sitting in a chair or sitting on the ground, whether your feet are on the ground or your sits bones are on the ground. Let's just bring some awareness into where we are right now. We are about to go on a journey of recognition. It's time to give language to something that you've been intuitively feeling into for such a long time, that you feel deeply connected to, but haven't had the words to name. We're going to name it here today. We're going to give it some language here today. Feel free to get a drink, settle in. We'll be here for about 45 minutes. Unless I yap too much, then it might take us a little longer. So first of all, if you are watching this episode, if you're watching this class today, if you're inside of the Dragon's Den, if you are thinking about entering the den, it's because something in you recognized itself in what I've been sharing. Maybe you've been feeling it for years, this pattern of overgiving, this pattern of burning out, this pattern of collapsing, and then somehow finding your way back to only then repeat the cycle again. Maybe you've had dark night of the soul after dark night of the soul after dark night of the soul, and you're finally ready to come up for a breath of fresh air, but you don't know what it looks like to go about doing this without repeating the cycle again. That is what we want to work with here today. You might recognize yourself as being the one who everyone comes to for help, the one who takes one for the team, or the one who sacrifices herself to keep everyone else safe. You sacrifice your ability to even feel what you actually feel in order to keep those around you safe from feeling what you feel. Because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to cause problems. You don't want to cause issues. That's a whole nother thing. That's an Akemeth wound, which is a mother wound, which we have a whole class for that. So if that sounds like you, you're definitely in the right place. This will be the intro, and there's room to grow and go deeper. But the point is, you're likely exhausted. And maybe you're realizing that the way that you've been living, in that you've been acting alone, pushing through, apologizing for existing, you're realizing that that's not sustainable anymore. And that's not even who you really are. That's not who you want to be. And you know it. So now that we've established I know who you are, welcome. And I want to take a moment to recognize that there's nothing within you that's broken. There's nothing within you that's wrong. You're not doing it wrong. You're actually living out an ancient pattern. And it's a pattern that's encoded in human consciousness. And once you see it, once you recognize the architecture of what's been happening, that's when real transformation gets to break through. So what we're going to be learning about today is the Sophia arc. It's the exact pattern that you've been reenacting your entire life. Some call it mythology, some call it the dark night of the soul, right? It's up to you to make the label be what you feel. But what we're going to talk about is the pattern. So, in Gnostic cosmology, if you're unfamiliar, there's a goddess named Sophia. Sophia means wisdom. She is not separate from the masculine. She is the Christos Sophia unified field. Okay, so Sophia in her fullest state is both masculine and feminine, or androgynous, if you so choose to look at it that way. She's the 12th dimensional consciousness holding coherence for all creation beneath her. And in her state in the fullness, she makes a choice. She sees the lower dimensions struggling. She notices that they aren't able to come into wholeness and completion in the way that she is currently embodied. She feels their pain. And out of pure love and urgency, she decides to descend, to fragment, and to fall so that she can assist them in evolving more completely and faster. Now, there's some debate on whether or not this was a mistake, while this was malintentioned by other beings. My perspective on it is that it was a conscious choice. And this is very important. The way that I look at things is very important for understanding the lens and the perspective of what I'm embodying, because I'm not looking at it from a fragmented point of view. I'm looking at it as though she has free will, she made a decision. And that's a completely different energy than she was forced into this dynamic in order to learn and grow. Okay. It gives the power back to her as an archetype and also you as a being who's living through this pattern. Ultimately, this was an act of compassion on Sophia's part. She literally said, I'll take one for the team. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a pattern that you've been playing out? The parent who needed saving, the sibling who was struggling, the friend who couldn't handle it alone, so you were there for them again and again and again. The collective pain that you felt that you had to fix. The world feeling like it's on your shoulders. Thinking, I have to do this. I can handle it. If I don't help, they'll suffer. If I don't do this, then this. If I don't do this, then the whole world is going to end. So you step out of alignment, not because you're weak or naive, but because you have so much genuine love and compassion for others that you are willing to sacrifice your own wholeness in order to help them, in order to assist humanity. Notice how that lands in your body. Notice what's happening in your body right now. Are you holding your breath? Like, oh my God, I can't believe she just said that out loud. Is your chest tightening up? Like, wow. Don't know if I can accept this as true. Any sort of visceral reaction is information, and it's actually recognition of seeing yourself in this pattern somehow, some way. Your system actually remembers this. And the whole point of this class today is to kind of familiarize yourself with the Sophia myth so that you understand the pattern and so that you can bring some normalcy to what you're living and stop making yourself feel so crazy for what you're living. Because while this may sound woo-woo, mythology has been utilized by human cultures for centuries. And the reason for that is because it points to something deeper. It points to something that we can't explain with the logical mind. So in this masterclass, we're going to be going into the 7-stage Sophia arc pattern that you've been living. We're going to go stage by stage. We're going to explore why the villains that we see in our reality aren't actually villains. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the immune response, which is a concept that we go deeper into inside of the deep dives in the Dragon's Den. And I'm also going to show you and share with you how the 10 courses inside of the Dragon's Den support each stage of the Sophia arc journey. We're going to talk a little bit about the both and consciousness that creates true freedom. And we're going to give you the pathway from collapse to sovereign embodiment. Now, obviously, this is just one masterclass, and this is actually like lifelong work. So you might experience transformation in this masterclass. I highly believe that you will, but that doesn't mean that it will be sustained long term if you don't continue doing the work. Okay, so this is something that is a continuous process, which is why we have the space, the Dragon's Den, so that you can work alongside of other individuals along the coursework so that you have that structure and that anchor to guide you in this process. And this is something that I have been doing for my entire life. And now I'm inviting you on the journey with us. So, right, I kind of already said this. Sophia is the Christus Sophia. She is the unified field. She's 12th dimensional, 13th dimensional consciousness. She's the gatekeeper of creation, holding coherence for all realms beneath her. She is the union of the masculine and the feminine, right? And so in the stages of the inner Sophia myth, what happens is essentially the hero's journey. So this is not a new concept that I'm bringing to light. I'm just explaining it in a bit of a different way, from a bit of a more feminine mysticism kind of lens, because I feel like that voice particularly is missing in our society, and it's something that can help us to connect more deeply to the feminine, which is another component that we have neglected as a society. So there is this, in the hero's journey, there's this call to adventure. There's supernatural aid, right? There's a threshold that you cross. And then through crossing that threshold is the beginning of the transformation. And there's challenges and temptations. And then you go into the death and rebirth, which is full of the unknown, which can also lead to revelations, right? And that creates transformation and atonement, and then the return, the gift of the goddess, right? And you come back into the known, but for the majority of this process, you're in the unknown, okay? And that's really what Sophia's journey is all about. We also, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Mami Onami, but sometimes I touch on her work as well and explain it from my lens. But she has the Enneagram, and the Enneagram, the way that she describes it, is very much a similar process. It's 7 points, and it goes through a very much a similar process. So this is all pointing to something deeper. It's all pointing to the same thing. It's just different ways of explaining it, right? And the reason that I explain it from the Sophia perspective, the Sophia lens, is because I deeply believe that we are living in the body of the goddess Sophia. And that's the reason why this is embedded in almost every aspect of reality. You don't have to share that belief, but that's where I'm coming from when I'm sharing this, so that you understand my conviction in it. So, what Sophia experienced cosmically, you've likely experienced personally. And it follows this very specific pattern, these 7 stages that you've been cycling through maybe for your entire life. So what I want to do now is walk you through them. And I want you to notice what stage you recognize yourself in right now. In stage 1, we're in complete wholeness, right? So this could happen in a very zoomed out perspective. Like, you look at your life and you're like, oh, that was stage 1, oh, that was stage 2, that was stage 3, that was stage 4. You can look at it like that, or you can see it as this continuous process, or both, of you going through each stage. So for example, with a certain desire, you might move through all 7 stages. Within a certain area of your life, you might move through all 7 stages, right? It's a continual process that happens in many different facets across your entire life. So, stage 1 is wholeness, right? Typically, what we think of as stage 1 when we're looking at that zoomed out perspective is childhood. Right? So when you're a child, you're super free, you do what you want to do, and you challenge the world around you. But you feel whole in the decisions you're making. Now, depending on your life experience, you might not even remember this feeling of wholeness, and that's okay. Because we can build these in different areas of our life so that we can intentionally go through this process and create the transformation, which is another reason why I love this structure and I love this architecture. So this is the stage where you have that sense of feeling of, I am enough exactly as I am. It's your original frequency. You feel connected. You were loved without having to earn it. Then stage 2 comes about. And this is the first pull in acting alone. You saw someone struggling and you felt urgency, right? Maybe it was a friend, a parent, the collective. You thought, I need to fix this. No one else will do it. If I don't help, then they'll suffer. So you acted alone. You stepped out of alignment to save them faster. You became the rescuer, the martyr, the one doing it all by yourself. And this is exactly where the pattern starts. So we have wholeness in the pleroma. Sophia's in the pleroma. And then her fall is that first pull, that desire to act alone. This creates the disconnection, because when you act alone, you lose connection to source, to yourself, to your body. You don't understand that this happening, this stage 2, whatever's you're being shown, whatever person's struggling, is part of the process. Actually, you see it as bad, you see it as wrong, and this is part of living in dualistic thinking. That's why I encourage us to step out of dualistic thinking into polarity based thinking. When we're in stage 3, it's kind of a gradual process. You might not even recognize that it's happening at first, but suddenly you're anxious all the time. You have chronic anxiety, you have racing thoughts, hypervigilance, your chest is tight, your breathing is shallow, you have a clenched jaw. You're running on fumes, but you can't stop, because if you stop, then everything falls apart. This is the inner firewall breach. This is the moment that your boundaries dissolved. So, the key thing I want you to recognize between these first 3 stages is, in stage 1, you are in wholeness, but you are still in individuation. What do I mean by that? You still have the necessary structures and boundaries of separateness. Okay, that is important. When you go into this first pull, you're actually acting out of wholeness, unity, consciousness. Okay, you're assuming, okay, well, it's happening to them, it's happening to me, and you can't access that individuation, that separation, right? Stage 3 deepens this. It puts you in a rut of not being able to actually see the individuation that you hold. And then this leads to stage 4. Okay, now this is all done out of unity consciousness. So it's not bad, it's not wrong, there's nothing bad or wrong about it. It's just a process that our consciousness goes through in order to evolve. So in stage 4, we have the hijacking. This is when you disconnect from your center. So first you disconnected from the wholeness. Now you're disconnecting from that oneness energy that lives within you, right? So you disconnect from your center. Parasitic patterns creep in. Narcissistic partners now have access to you, right? And it can change someone who is not narcissistic at all. You can magnetize them into being narcissistic. I'm not saying that you're doing that or that it's your fault, but I'm just saying your consciousness, when you're in this state, when you're going through this process, will naturally attract those people and even convert some people into, I mean, they had to have that capacity within them, so whatever. But it will even bring people down to that level so that it meets you where you're at, is what I'm saying. This might look like jealous friends who undermine you, people starting to embody narcissistic patterns, family members who guilt you, clients who are demanding too much. And instead of going back into individuation and claiming your right to your own preferences, instead you start to people please to survive. You start shape-shifting to fit other people's needs. You start losing yourself in relationships. You start giving your power away. And the underlying energy here is victim mindset. Instead of claiming your role in the situation, you ask, why is this happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? As if you have no control in actually shifting it. And from your vantage point, from your perspective in that moment, you likely truly believe that you have no ability to actually change anything in your reality. So it's not bad to be in these states, okay? It's part of the process. It's part of being in that unknown, right? In stage 5, you finally hit that collapse. For reference, this is like stage 4, stage 5, stage 6, stage 7. Okay. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, stage 6, stage 7. Okay. So now you're in stage 4, you think that you have empowered yourself by acting alone, by acting without a consort, without connection to the highest good of all, but you actually created a vulnerability. And distortion always enters through unguarded openings. Distortion always enters through unguarded openings. So, because you weren't being firm in your individuation, in your ego, okay, this is a teaching that not a lot of spiritual people will endorse, because I am inviting you to step more deeply into your ego, especially if you're a woman. This is so necessary for harnessing your feminine energy on this planet. And that is the creative life force, right? So, because you weren't firm in your individuation and also respecting those around you and the unique process that they're going in, you saw them as weak or less than or below you, even. Because of that, you created a vulnerability by acting alone, thinking that you were above everyone else, right? And that's how distortion enters, because you're no longer in your individuation. You're acting on behalf of a collective rather than upon your individuation. This is some deep shit, okay? This is some really deep shit. And again, I can only do so much in one masterclass. We have the whole Dragon's Den to go through all of this. In the collapse, which is stage 5, you eventually burn out because you lack that individuation. This is the full dark night of the soul, right? Identity crisis. You don't even know who you are anymore. You don't know what you want anymore. You fully have reached that point of being in the void, of relinquishing your individuation to the point where you can now come out on the other side with new insights into who you are, right? But in order to get there, you have to experience the not knowing. You have to experience the breakdown, right? Maybe your body breaks down. You have autoimmune issues, chronic flares, nervous system dysregulation. Maybe you feel too much and not enough at the same time. Maybe you're apologizing for existing, right? This is Tiamat, who is the original primordial waters. We have full deep dives inside of the den. I'm not going to go too much into the mythology of that here. But what happens with Tiamat is she is the cosmic waters existing outside the realm of the earth. I see her in a higher harmonic resonance. And she isn't really a planet, but more so just like a body of water existing outside of the earth. And she explodes. And I correlate this to your cerebrospinal fluid. When you have advancements in your consciousness, it rises, right? That's Kundalini awakening. This planetary myth, this planetary destruction myth, is encoded inside of your body. And in this collapse, you experience more clarity. So, this is what a lot of people don't realize or don't acknowledge, that the collapse is actually perfectly necessary. Now, your degree of collapse is up to you, depending on the lessons that you have decided to come here to learn and, your own unique journey. But the collapse is absolutely necessary in some way, shape, or form. You cannot restore the original architecture without first grieving what was lost, without first understanding the value of what it is that you gave up, your individuation, right? And this leads way to stage 6, which is the receding. So after the collapse, if you're willing, that's when the receding begins, receding. And sometimes this looks like actually receding, so that you can reseed, so that you can pour into what it is you actually want to pour into rather than what you were pouring into. In this stage, you might find a teacher who actually sees you. You might find a modality that works for you, a community that holds you, a practice that reconnects you to your body, a being that you work with that allows you to feel fully anchored in the earth, right? You may feel connected to your higher self in a more deep way. And this gives you a sense of confidence to start acting out of individuation again, because you've established that connection to something bigger than you, whether it be on the 3D plane or metaphysical. And then this gives you the confidence to start saying no without guilt. You start to rebuild that trust within yourself. You have moments of remembering, like, oh, I'm still here. Oh, I can still do this. Oh, wow, that was part of it, right? It's the point of revelation. You restore the original architecture by utilizing what's available to you. And this is the journey of Sophia. This is the pathway of Sophia. Utilizing what's available, feeling gratitude for what is, rather than looking at the lack of what is or what is missing. And then in stage 7, the final stage, this is where you reach self-mastery, right? And this also mirrors the somatics framework of going through the different stages. Self-mastery is the last stage in the somatics framework. And then it iterates to create a new experience, a new version of this journey. So in stage 7, we have you reuniting with your inner Christos. And in the somatics framework, we actually teach like how to do this. Like it's actually the process of getting into this restoration stage. So usually clients will come to me at like stage 6, and then somatics would be like the framework for them to move into stage 7. But we have resources for all of the different stages, right? Because they all build and lead into one another. But in stage 7, you're essentially reuniting with your masculine, the masculine principle within you. The two polarities begin to integrate within you. So you stop collapsing into other people's distortions or worldviews or the specific journeys that their soul is on, and you hold your frequency even when others begin to spiral. And that is the most empowering thing that you can do for someone, more so than actually helping them and assisting them through every step of the process. This will catalyze them more clearly than anything else could, because you become the leader, and you lead without overgiving, you create without burning out, you rest without guilt, you become the embodiment, right? You receive without feeling undeserving, because you're embodying that individuation amongst the wholeness. You're understanding that there is a greater purpose to all of this. And what you begin to understand will depend on which layer you're on, which level you're on, how many times you've gone through this reiteration, what your specific soul is wanting and needing to live, right? But some specific examples that you might experience are going from the rescuer to a sovereign leader, from the martyr to an embodied priestess, from feeling collapsed or collapsing to a stabilized aeon in human form. And an aeon is just Sophia. Sophia is an aeon. So it's masculine and feminine together. And when you reach this stage, you are no longer concerned about fixing the world. You're no longer concerned about helping everybody around you, because you know that your inner stabilization is what magnetizes everything else. And it might take you a few iterations of going through these stages to reach that. I've been through these stages many times, and that is a personal revelation that I have had. Now, this is self-mastery, right? So at different layers, at different levels, you're going to experience different layers and levels of self-mastery. And it's beautiful because it just keeps building on one another. And then it starts to snowball, right? You're never starting from scratch. You're always starting from wherever you're at in the cycle. And there's always momentum to be pulled from. There's always something backing you. There is always a higher force guiding you, right? And if you get anything from learning about these 7 stages, I hope that it's that. But inside of the dragon's den, that's where we're building towards all of these different stages and eventually self-mastery. And that's why somatics has become our signature framework alongside of the Sophia arc, because it's really 2 things that integrate into the same outcome. It's really the same pathway, just described a bit differently so that you can understand the mechanics. Now, this is where it gets deep, because let me see if I have, okay. There are no villains. Now, I want you to sit with that as I say that. And you're like, well, there's been so much injustice, right? Look at the state of the world, Maddie. Like, how can you say that there are no villains? I hear you. I hear you. I hear you and I see you. But when we look at this as if it's a character arc, we look at it as if it's a story, right? This is an example that I pulled from the internet. The protagonist wants something, right? There's a goal. Same with Sophia, right? The protagonist can't get the goal, right? Then the protagonist must I don't know what that's to say, but it must try to get the goal, essentially. Adjust to try to get the goal. But towards the end, the protagonist has changed the attitudes and the emotion about the goal. So through this process, through the Sophia arc, we can actually see that none of the antagonists are actually against us, but are actually helping us to reframe our perspective about what it is, whatever is present. This is a way to view the dark night of the soul, the hero's journey, from a bit of a more neutral and objective perspective. Because when we understand that there are no villains, we start to thank people in real time, even when they are disruptive, even when they are rude or mean or abusive or harmful to us. We can see the value in what it is they're inviting us to step into through their presence. For example, for a while, for the longest time, I would villainize my parents. And just recently, actually, after, really diving deep into the Sophia arc and creating this framework, I realized that actually, if my parents would have been any other way, and I've had subtle realizations over this over the years, but this one like really hit home. If my parents were to have been any other way, I wouldn't value the things that I value. I wouldn't desire the things that I desire. I wouldn't look at the world the way that I look at the world if it weren't for them being harmful and abusive. I needed that experience in order to have my revelations, right? I'm also a Scorpio at 29 degrees. Like, I came into this life for that shit, okay? Not that that excuses their behavior in any way, but I'm just saying I can see their role in the story now, and I'm less attached to the personalization of it, and I'm still able to remain in my individuation because I'm no longer taking it personally. Do you see the power in that? We're going to go a little bit deeper on this. Most spiritual teachings will tell you that Sophia fell, that dark entities invaded, right? There's a couple of those narratives going on online that are really widespread. That there's a war between light and dark, and that you need to choose a side. And that is a very real reality if you believe in it, okay? I'm not negating it. It's very real if you believe in it, but you're the one giving your belief to it, okay? So what if we look at it from the perspective of that's not actually what happened, and that's not actually what's necessary? What if Sophia's descent, her compassionate descent out of ignorance, basically, triggered the universe's intelligent self-regulation system? We have a whole deep dive on this inside of the den, but I'm going to give you a little brief overview of it. What if the so-called negative entities, you could also take this on a personal level, like what if your so-called bad habits, right? The draconians, the controlling forces, the narcissists in your life, the bad habits in your life. What if they aren't actually villains at all, but the cosmic immune response to trying to restore balance? Sumta. What if they are just part of your nervous system? In the same way that white blood cells attack invaders. Literally, like think about your body. When a cell shows up in the wrong place, your immune system activates. White blood cells don't hate the foreign object, right? They're just doing their job. It doesn't belong here. Let's restore balance. Period. What if that's what's been happening in your relationships, in your life, and in the collective? What if lower density consciousness, like contraction, survival energy, rigid boundaries, what if that encountering the higher frequency fields like expansion and love and openness creates dissonance, like two musical notes that don't harmonize? Then we can see that the attack isn't personal, it's functional. It's the universe saying these two frequencies aren't integrated yet. Work needs to be done, or separation needs to happen. Now, I know that some of you are here because you're trying to escape a narcissist parent or a toxic relationship or an abusive dynamic, whether it's external or whether you feel it's with yourself. And I don't want to encourage you to stay in those situations because they can be harmful. But what I am asking you to do is to see it a little bit differently, and that can actually be your portal out. The person, the one that you've been calling the villain, the one that you've been blaming, right? They're not trying to destroy you. They are trying to survive. Yeah. Their nervous system perceives you as a threat to their homeostasis. Your openness feels destabilizing to their rigidity. Your emotional expression activates their shutdown response. Your Sophia frequency encounters their draconian frequency, and they don't know how to integrate the two. And so they attack. They are not evil, okay? They are chronically dysregulated. And this is the part I really want you to understand. They're showing you where you need to integrate the masculine principle. The capacity to say no, to hold boundaries, to protect yourself, to stop overgiving. Because more so than the feminine has been dismissed, the union of the two has been mocked and ridiculed. And so when you bring both energies back into the equation in one vessel, you reestablish your sovereignty. Okay, let's take a breath. Maybe a large exhale audibly. I know it can be uncomfortable, but this is the work. This is how we integrate. You think that you're stuck choosing between one or the other. You have to get rid of them or you have to stay. But you're not. You're stuck thinking that you need to make a decision indefinitely instead of making the decision that makes sense for you the most right here and now. This is the both and. It gets to be both. You get to stay and you get to leave because part of you will always stay with them, whoever it is, in their consciousness, their version of you. And you get to leave and build a new version of you. We've been taught that morality means being good, that you need to limit yourself, confine yourself, choose the light over the dark, right? Feminine over masculine, flow over structure. Or maybe it's the opposite, masculine over feminine, structure over flow. Be acceptable to society, whatever society standards are at the time. Be safe, be loved. But that's the trap. True freedom comes from allowing yourself to be. It comes from both and consciousness, from compassion and boundaries, from flow and structure, from feminine womb and masculine spine, expansion and contraction, Sophia and the demiurge. You think that, the thing with habits that I see most often is like, people will be like, okay, I need to implement better habits. That's an expansion practice. And then they don't give themselves time to rest or actually adjust to the habits that they're changing. They're not integrating both. They're choosing one over the other. And this is exactly what we've been conditioned to do. But this is the thing. You don't know this. You don't gain this wisdom unless you go into the depths. I'm living proof of this. The deepest truth is that if Sophia wanted to truly know the masculine principle, source, the monad, the father, she had to descend into density and experience the shadow of it. You have to experience the shadow. You have to invite the shadow. The shadow is your friend. You can't know the light without knowing the dark. You can't know expansion without knowing contraction. You can't know the sacred masculine without knowing the demiurge, which is the masculine principle in its densest form. And Sophia, pure feminine expansion, had to meet the densest manifestation of her counterpart, of herself, to understand the full spectrum of creation. The demiurge teaches you discipline, boundaries, discernment, the burning no, right? And this is why demonizing toxic masculinity completely misses the point, because to truly embody the sacred feminine, you must appreciate the masculine even in its densest form. You must appreciate the villain for what they're showing you, for what they're guiding you into. Without the demiurge, Sophia is all womb and no spine. And we can even look at this from the perspective of solely feminine principles. So it's the same as like Kali Ma and Sophia being together, right? You need both of those principles, the polarizing aspect, in order to anchor yourself into the grid, to be fully embodied. This work is about integrating both Sophia and the demiurge to create a unified field, which is true sovereignty, which leads to self-mastery, which allows you to be embodied in your wholeness. And this is exactly the work that we do inside of the Dragon's Den. We integrate both so that you're not just on a continuous journey of healing, looking for something outside of you. Instead, you recognize your inherent wholeness through understanding the principles of duality. So inside of the Dragon's Den, you have access to 10 courses plus bonus workshops, resources, and community. There's a whole vault of somatic practices, right? Each one is designed to support a specific stage in your restoration. Now, the thing about this journey is it's not always linear. So you might booble and bop around from place to place, okay? And I invite you to go where your soul is feeling called, whether you feel like you're at one stage of the journey or not. Maybe a certain course is calling to you, maybe a certain resource is calling to you. I invite you to explore that because it will have the medicine that you need. Your intuition knows better than any structure, but having a structure can be really helpful so that you know what you're getting yourself into. So, in our foundational courses, this is where we're understanding the pattern. Stages 1 through 3 is like recognizing the pattern, understanding that first pull or experiencing that first pull, and then reconnecting to source. So if you're in this stage, these are the courses that we recommend. The Witch's Coven is where we learn about the laws of creation, the energetic principles that govern reality. We work with the elements, we work with the weather, and you get a sense of remembering your own original union consciousness. We do a little bit of parts work here, but the majority of the self-development stuff is in later courses. This is going to invoke the part of you that gets to know how everything works. Then in Deliberately Creating You, this is your manifestation course, but it's really about understanding that first pull. How do you create deliberately rather than reactively? So a lot of us are creating based on what we think we want because of the experiences and the circumstances that we've been given, and that is reactive creation. When we create deliberately, we're actually tapped into our soul, into our inner knowing, and we can create from that place. And this course is really about how you can harness your unique energetic signature without burning out in the process of that creation. So there's tools, there's tips, there's manifestation hacks, I guess. But it's really giving you a foundation for what manifestation actually is outside of the new age perspective of it. Of like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna manifest, because that's really not how it works. It's more of a embodied identity that you step into. And so that will walk you through that. Inside of managing the mind, this is where we're doing the self-concept work. We're reconnecting to the monad. This is reconnecting you to the divine feminine essence and unconditional love, and what it truly means to be rooted in unconditional love, not bypassing or people pleasing or anything like that, but what it actually means to remain rooted in emanating your fullness despite when other people are spiraling around you. And we also work with, rewiring your internal landscape, so that if you are prone to anxiety and overthinking, this is going to really help you rewire this, especially if you have feminine wounding like a mother wound. This course will be super transformational for you. In stages 4 and 5, this is where we're working through the shadow work and the collapse. So if you're in stages 4 or 5, you're experiencing hijacking, you're in the middle of collapse, or you're just coming out of burnout, these courses will hold you and support you. Inside of Stories for Success, this is where we're doing generational healing, revision work. We're going into the timelines where the patterns started. We're working with ancestral gifts and trauma and past lives, the moment that you inherited the wound, right? And we're altering your DNA composition on a cellular level. So this is deep work, okay? And then the chakra activation guide is about somatic restoration, because your body holds the memory of the collapse. So in this course, we're activating the different energetic centers, we're clearing the blocks, and we're restoring the flow so that your nervous system can finally settle into this new identity, into this new reality that you're stepping into. And then for stages 6 and 7, these are the restoration courses. This is all about sacred marriage and embodiment. So if you're in stages 6 and 7, that's when reseeding has begun. You're ready for integration and self-mastery. And so Spark Your Magic will help you to integrate more conscious boundaries and standards for your life. This will help you to integrate the demiurge, learn about harnessing your sacred no, and it will help you to set the container for your relationship so that you're not overgiving, so that you're not people pleasing, so that you're not abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. This is the star course. So if you're familiar with tarot, it's like stepping into the energy of the star, which isn't always the best thing, and it's not for everyone, but it's about allowing yourself to be seen for your true values and your standards, and allowing yourself to be seen in that individuation and actually holding that frequency. Inside of It Is Done, this is about living in the end. It's about embodying the Christos Sophia unified field. And we're really working with energetic and cosmic principles in establishing a really solid foundation for you to be embodied in as your manifestations come in. This is the course where we're really honing in on no longer waiting for the transformation. You're being the transformation. You're trusting your intuition. You're building that muscle, and you're moving from that place of already wholeness, already one with whatever it is that you are creating. It's a full identity shift, right? And then inside of Building a Legacy, this is householder embodiment. So this is the energetics and the strategy of building a multi-million-dollar movement, making your work a playground for your soul, manifesting through the structure and the vision that you have. So we're bringing it fully 3D deliberately creating you is like, okay, kind of have this like general idea of what I want. It is done is like, okay, I'm here. Building a legacy is okay. I'm doing it. I'm taking steps. And we also have inside of the portal, the Dragon's Den, we have some additional courses. Some of these are free. The Somatics Exploration is a separate upgrade to the free version. And then we also have our full resource library that all Dragon's Den members get access to. In addition to our group chat. I'll give you all the details in a second. But for the Somatics Exploration, this is where we're really focusing on branding from your soul story. So this is an evolution of building a legacy. You can start in any of these areas, right? It just depends on where you're at in your journey and where you feel that you really want to work in your life. The way that my cat is laying right now is actually hilarious. So in the Somatics Exploration, you're going to learn to transmit your unique frequency, all the work that we've done throughout the Somatics process, which is embedded in all of the courses, into your work, your voice, your offers, whatever that looks like for you. And we're going to invite you into channeling your medicine. So you also get the money and identity shifting workshop, which is 3 past recorded calls. This is a direct householder activation, becoming the financial steward of your own life. It really breaks down how to create these identity shifts, which all of the courses walk you through, but this will give you more of like a high level overview. And then the Working with Living Waters course is all about the water filtration that I work with and how that's really shifted my life and how it can be supportive for your cells. And we go into hydration as a spiritual practice, and it deals with householder energy as well. And then inside of the digital resources and deep dives, the full resource library, we have a Google Drive that you get access to. There's so many things in there. There's ebooks. There's literally so many resources in there. And it's everything that I've kind of compiled over the last like 20 years of this work, super organized and accessible. And yes, I started young. I know I say 20 years and I'm only like 27, but I really did start young in doing this work. And I've kind of compiled it all to be really accessible and really easy for you to move through and work through and utilize these frameworks in a way that actually fuels and soothes your soul. Now, here's my guidance. Don't try to do all 10 courses at once. You're going to feel overwhelmed, right? This is a self-led journey. So I invite you to go where your nervous system is feeling called towards, as I've said. If you're just recognizing the pattern, start with the Witch's Coven. If you're in active collapse or burnout, start with Stories for Success or the Chakra Activation Guide. If you're ready for boundaries and integration, start with Spark Your Magic. Or if you're building your life or your business on sovereign ground, then start with Building a Legacy or the Somatics Exploration. You'll know where to start, okay? And feel free to pop around. I mean, it is meant to go in order, but you will get so much value out of it no matter how you work it. You just gotta work it, okay? I can't do the work for you. I've compiled it as much as I can. And yeah, I invite you to move at your own pace. Trust what your nervous system needs. You have 1 year of full access until your subscription renews. So there's no rush, okay? You get full support inside of the group chat. I try my best to be fully active in there and answer any questions. I also drop additional resources in there from time to time. But there are some disclaimers that I want to make before I set you loose and you go free. This is not self-help, okay? This isn't healing in the way that you have been taught to heal. This is an initiation. And you didn't stumble into the dragon's den by accident. You're here because you carry the restoration codes. You're here because you're part of the lineage, the Atlantean priestesses, the Sophia bearers, the Orifem template holders, the dragon mothers. You've been reenacting this fall, this arc, for lifetimes, and now you're here to break the cycle. You're ready to fully step into your individuation and uphold the highest good for all. And every time that you integrate your shadow, every time that you own your power without apology, you're demonstrating what the cosmos is learning, what we're learning on a collective level. Earth is the alchemical crucible where Sophia frequency and draconian frequency are forced to coexist. And we, you and me, we are the integration template. The goal is not to transcend density, okay? You're here to become whole within it. You're here to restore the pleroma in the 3D. This work will ask you to stop demonizing the villains and own what they're reflecting. It will ask you to integrate the parts of you that you've been rejecting. It will ask you to acknowledge that you've been both the victim and the perpetrator across lifetimes. That's a big one to swallow, okay? It will ask you to take radical responsibility for your frequency. It will ask you to hold complexity without collapsing. And it is not always an easy journey. It's not all love and light and fluffy and, oh, I'm a goddess priestess. Like, there are deep depths that we go to together. And I am here opening the door, but I cannot push you down the stairs. I will not push you down the stairs. Okay? You get to walk into the depths yourself. And if not, you're going to remain at the top of the stairs, and there's not really much I can do for you, because going towards these depths is the only way through. I believe that we are the generation who will end the war, and not because we defeat darkness, but because we integrate it. And I believe that sensitive souls like you are here to lead by becoming sovereign and letting go of the martyr archetype, or seeing the value of the martyr archetype and allowing it to be relinquished. And I wholeheartedly believe that the Dragon's Den is the container where this alchemy happens. And if you're still here, if you've made it to the end of this orientation, which I hope you did, you're ready. You're fully ready to step into this work, and I'm so excited. So let's take a breath. Notice what's different in your system now compared to when we started. Maybe there's more space. Maybe there's a sense of grief coming up. Maybe there's excitement. Whatever's here and present for you right now is welcome. You have officially been initiated into the Sophia arc. You cannot unsee this pattern now. And that's the point. Welcome to the Dragon's Den. Welcome to your restoration. Let's begin. Let's start the journey. Okay, so if you have not logged into your portal yet, this will give you a link to the Dragon's Den landing page, where you can either, if you're watching this as some sort of freebie, if I offer that, this will be how you join the den. If you're wanting to log in, you can utilize this QR code and just click log in at the top. We do have ongoing transmissions. We were doing it on a set structure. It's a little bit more lax and fluid now. Feel free to add anything that you'd like touched on inside of the group chat, which I will give you the information for. Again, so we were doing fixed like once a month, but it's about once a month now. A voice memo, somatic practice, which is in the chat. transmissions from a specific book with different practices, the Masterclass call, which you're currently watching this month's, and then we do a somatic practice live appreciation circle as well, and there's surprise transmission and piezoelectric jerk drops, which is piezoelectric is like the crystal that's in your head and it goes with the cerebral spinal fluid. So those are all in the group chat. So here's what to do next. You don't really have to worry too much about this. You'll get updates for everything. What you want to do is join the main community chat because that's where all of the updates are going to be. Explore the courses. Notice which one calls to you first. And please introduce yourself. Tell us where you are in the Sophia arc. Tell us, where you're tuning in from. Anything you want to share with us, we're here to receive it. And of course, trust your process. You have 1 year of full access, depending on whether or not you want to renew your subscription. And regardless, I'm so honored that you're here and that we're walking this journey together. And then, of course, we have additional free resources that I want to invite you into. So inside of the Shooting Star Collective, this is a free Facebook community. We invite you to share there as well. Any insights or downloads that you're having, if you want to connect with anyone. It's a pretty lively space. So I invite you to share and just practice sharing who you are. Practice that individuation, right? So important. The Working with Living Waters course, again, this is something that you get access to. It's completely free. But if you want to go do deep dives into the water that I work with, I have other resources on that. I'm not going to talk too much about it here. And then the Goddess Perspective podcast, that's our podcast. We also have our YouTube channel, which we're sometimes dropping collective readings on. If you want to tap into that, it's all at Magical Mats. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us along this journey. I'm super excited to welcome you inside of the Dragon's Den, and stay tuned because we have more Sophia arc themed masterclasses coming up. We have a Mother Wound class coming up, and this is just the beginning. This is just the start of a full body experience that will take you into the depths and into the heights and will allow your soul to soar and fly. Okay. I love you so much. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions, and I will see you inside the den.